Hey, it's party fun! And today I'm not here to play any games, no, I'm here to talk about a tabletop RPG called Dead Halt. Yes. And what is this game about, you might wonder? Well, it's set in a sort of alternate version of the 90s. One like that's a little bit like a cyberpunky type of future, but instead of like the usual cyberpunk where they have like cool cybernetics and stuff, this one's more, or should I say, a little less good? Because the author of the book calls it more like a clunk punk because they have cybernetics and stuff, but it's all impractical and it doesn't work very well most of the time. So yeah, it's kind of clunky, hence the name. But yeah, let's have a look at the actual rulebook. I have the PDF here. I have the physical version as well, but unfortunately I can't really show that to you here. But it's really cool. If you order it, it'll come to you like in this special envelope with like golden lettering on it and what have you. It's really fancy. So anyway, yeah, let's have a look at the PDF, shall we? Yes. So is the user's guide by Zonware. The creator of the book is he goes by Zonware, but I thought his real name would be in here, but apparently not. Oh, and here we have like one of the little consoles that we'll see often in the game. More about that later. Table of contents. Yes, here we go. The intro. The year is 1996. Y2K hasn't happened yet, so everything is still quite alright. The leaves of this autumn day have just changed colors. The streets are littered with flecks of orange, yellow, and brown. The berg is still and basking in a wavering golden light from the setting sun. Help Wanted is scrawled in a thick black ink on an old sandwich board. 6 steps down reveal the hidden face of the hotel's entrance. A warm red glow comes from the stained glass squares bordering the large oaken door. The lobby is patterned with a deep hexagon carpet and a swirling olive wallpaper. An empty reception desk in front of a board of room key tags. On a large warm desk sits an old blocky computer terminal, 2 overstuffed velvet chairs surround a gas fireplace, a shelf set into a wall between them filled with battered books. To the right is a tin doorway above which a mounted black placard reads, "The Fall Bar." 7 stools in front of a long bar. A quiet metal man behind the bar slowly cleans a short glass. The mirrored wall behind him is lined with rows upon rows of glittering liquor. Welcome to the hotel. Yeah, you go to Chapter 1, Learning How to Play. Yes, and of course it tells us that Dead Halt is a role-playing game, which I might have already told you about, and it's going to get into how to make your character. And something I like about this game is that actually you make your character during the first session. You don't have to make it ahead of time. No, you just play your character who walks into the bar at the hotel looking for a job for whatever reason. And while you are there, the bartender called Derain, as it says here, will strike up a conversation with you, and this will mold the player character. So yeah, you're making like a dialogue between the GM actually and the player, and from all the questions here, like what would you like to drink or something to eat? What's your name? What's your last profession? What's your hobbies? How did you end up here? Stuff like that. It'll start giving you ideas for your character, and depending on the answers, you also like stat out your character and things like that. We're gonna actually have a look at an ID card. Yeah, here we go. Here's one of the ID cards. So you see, it's very simple stats. You got strength, speed, focus, constitution, and knowledge. And then you also have like hit points, which you see like the little circle, the 9 and the 13 underneath. Yes, like state your hit points. And the little arrow above it is like if you happen to have any armor equipped, that shows you how much armor you have. And the little slots here are like to put your thingies in, your items and your equipment and what have you. And the because this, it kind of looks like it, but yes, it all fits onto a little card, really, like a little card that you can print out. And this is like the front, and this is like the back. And on the back, it shows a lot of stuff you probably won't immediately need. Well, you can make like a little picture of your character, and it also shows if you have any kind of special racial abilities. Though if you're just starting out, you'll be playing a human, so you probably won't have that. Unless, of course, your GM allows like different other races, but that's up to them. But yeah, all the stuff that you see underneath, like head, body, and arms, and what have you, that's actually where you equip your cybernetics. But you don't start with cybernetics. How do you get cybernetics, you might wonder? Oh, we will get to that in a moment. Yes, let's leave a little mystery, shall we? Anyway, going back to where we were before. So yes, introducing the bar, forming the crew. Here it states all the different attributes you have: strength, speed, focus, constitution, and knowledge. Most of them are really self-explanatory, as you can see. Like here we go. Strength is like muscle power, endurance, and vigor. Speed is quickness of movement, agility, what have you. Focus is your senses, your ability for calculation and reasoning. And constitution, of course, is your body, your physique, how healthy you are, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, knowledge is your understanding and how good you are creating supernatural forces. And most of your magic powers come from knowledge. Because in Dead Halt, everybody can use magic. The entire hotel is full of magic. Magic is in the air, as they say. Especially here at the hotel. Alright. So yes, it says here compiling your ID card. Well, like the ID card we looked at before. You have a, oh yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. You have a number of pips. I believe they were 5, if I'm not mistaken. And you can put them into like different, your different attributes. And if you're playing a human, you get one, your first boxes, like you see these. Hold on, sorry. These boxes here, the first ones will be ticked, and yeah, you can decide what other boxes you want to fill up. So yes, here it goes over all the different steps for making your character. Name, origin, quirk, your attributes. Oh, I was mistaken. It's 4 points, not Yeah, it's 4 points, not 5. And so yeah, and you may each start with one specific item, and the rest of the items you will acquire during play. So yeah, you can just make up one item, which will give you like a special bonus when attempting stuff related to that item. Yes, and then we'll get, you also may have armor, which decreases any damage you take. Current wounds and wound thresholds, gold, modifications, that's like cybernetics, which I'm still not gonna go into. And then job tally. Yeah, your experience here is gathered by just completing jobs that the bartender Durain gives to you. And that's how you level up, by completing jobs. Right, here we go into how to actually play the game, like action rounds. It has a pretty free-flowing kind of system. It's very rules-light, as you might have noticed from the very few stats that your character has. Here, deciding turn order. In the hotel, there's no time for squabbling. There's no need to roll who decides first. I encourage your players to act as a team and make their turn order follow the narrative of the encounter. Whoever walks into the room first takes the first bullet and sees an item first, or sees an item first and can choose to act first. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's very much like what they call social initiative. You don't have to like roll for it or anything like that. You're just the one who first says something, act first. So yeah, and you're of course encouraged to work together. Also, it's like it says here, we don't worry about movement all that much in Dead Halt, because it's all kind of theater of the mind. You don't really have to track how fast you can go. It's just, if it makes sense to the GM, it'll work probably. And it says here, when in doubt, roll a d6, and if you roll higher than the GM, which is in the, oh, and I forgot to mention that, which is in this system called the hotel manager, as is very appropriate. Yeah, you and the hotel manager will both roll dice. If you roll higher, you win. It's that simple. Yeah, and here we have a picture of the typical denizens of the hotel. More on that later. But yeah, it goes a little farther into the rules. A situation arises or the crew collectively chooses a crew member to act. The next most thematic crew member acts afterwards. After the crew acts, all the enemies will act. And then lastly, the denizens will act. Denizens are like NPCs, shall we say, non-enemy NPCs at least. Here goes further hint out to how your actions work. In many floors beyond the falls bar, roadblocks may arise. To overcome these challenges, the crew only needs a handful of six-sided dice. So yes, everything is decided rolling six-sided dice, so you only need d6s for this game. To resolve the situation, a crew member may act, attack, or use magics. Acting allows a crew member to overcome an obstacle or attempt a feat they would like to perform. So act first, have the crew member state the action they would like to perform. And then secondly, decide which attribute is the most applicable to the situation. The amount of dice rolls a player rolls is equal to the amount of pips they have in an attribute. Yes. So shall we say that your player wants to bash down a door? That very much sounds like strength to me. And yeah, they'll need to check out how many pips they have in their stats. Let me go back to the little ID card here before. So yeah, this character apparently has 3 in strength, because you see that 3 pips are filled. That means you get to roll 3d6. Alright. And then you need to roll them all, of course. And then you count how many knocks you have. And a knock is basically all die that are like 4 or above. 1, 2, and 3 are misses. Yeah, and then you need to count how many successes you have. Knocks. And if you rolled 0 knocks, you have a failure. 1 knock is a partial success. Meaning that the hotel manager will narrate the successful action and there will be negative side effects. If you rolled 2 knocks, you have a full success. What you are trying to do works without complications. If you have 3, it's a striking success. The player will narrate how they complete their action. So that means you can add a little bit more, so it like works more into your favor. Here we go. 4 gleaming success. The player will narrate their action and add a reasonable small action. And 5 is a heroic success. The player will narrate their action as well as choose another player to take an action, so somebody else will get an extra action. And 6 is a 1 heroic success. Player will narrate their action, take a small action, as well as choose another player to take an action and a small action. Wow. So if that happens, that's pretty good. But yeah, to get that many successes, you'd have to have like a pretty high score and something, and maybe have some items to help increase the odds. Alright, here we're going to go more into combat. How attacking works. Attacking allows the crew to attempt to harm or destroy another being. Attacking creatures or beings within the hotel is ill-advised, but sometimes may be the only option. Attacking consists either of attacking unarmed, which is just rolling your strength attribute, and every knock causes a wound, or attacking with an improvised weapon. If the item is wielded, it's a strength roll. If the item is thrown, it's a speed roll, and you can also add a bonus if it's like a special item, stuff like that. And every knock causes 1 wound. And attacking using a regular weapon, not an improvised one, works similarly, where you need to roll the dice based on the attribute the weapon relies on, because every weapon will work a little differently. If it's like, I don't know, a sword or a club, it's usually strength. If it's like a ranged weapon like a gun, it'll usually be like focus, if I'm not mistaken. And then again, you need to roll, and every knock causes wounds equal to its wounding value. So you always deal more damage with real weapons. That's for sure. Oh, and weapons can malfunction. More on that later. Yeah. And here it goes into items. Items used as intended automatically will give a crew member advantage, so that means they'll get to roll extra dice. Yeah, that's going back to what I said during character creation. If your character has like an item unique to them, and they, let's say they for instance have a toolkit, that toolkit will come in handy when they try to repair something. And that's what that will give them advantage. And armor will protect a crew member's body while on a dangerous job. Whenever a crew member takes wounds, subtract the armor value before adding it to their wound total. And here we have an example of a weapon. You can see here that you need to use focus to use this weapon, but you also get 2 bonus dice. So you need to roll your focus score plus 2 extra dice. And for every knock you get, you deal 3 wounds. Because you see your WV stands for wound value. You deal 3 wounds per knock. So you can deal a lot of damage with that. And the malfunctioning threshold is 1. That means if you roll a 1, it will probably malfunction. Yeah, it says here, if enough 1s are rolled to equal a malfunction threshold, roll on the malfunction threshold chart at the back of this book. Oh yeah, so I said that a little wrong. I made a little mistake. So with this one, the malfunction threshold is 1. So if one of your one of your d6s that you roll to fire it is a 1, that's enough to make it malfunction. More high quality weapons have a higher malfunction threshold. So it'll be a little harder for them to start malfunctioning, because you need to roll multiple 1s before they start malfunctioning. Well, this one just needs you to roll 1, and it already will start malfunctioning, causing trouble for you. Or just making things weird, because malfunctions in this game often cause weird things to happen. More on that later. Yeah, and of course the ammo capacities of how many times you can be fired the weapon can be fired before having to get rid of it because there are exceptions, but usually when you're out of ammo, well, you can't use the weapon anymore. Because each weapon has like completely unique ammo. As you level up your character, there will be like you will get options for restocking on ammo, but most of the time, especially when just starting out, a weapon that's out of ammo is completely useless. Alright, moving on. Enemies and monsters. Very, very simple. They'll just also have like a wound value, like a number of hit points, an armor value, and several special attacks, which deal a certain number of wounds. They don't really have the same type of stats, attributes as a player character will be. They'll just have like a number of attacks and then have like a number of pips, meaning like the number of dice they can roll, and also another wound value. So it's kept really, really short. Combat is a part of role-playing in Dead Halt. Don't stop role-playing and make combat a minigame. Crew members and enemies will still have individual desires and attention. Feel free to let the enemy ask for forgiveness, offer bribe, or join the team if the maintenance crew has proven their worthiness. Enemies in the hotel also run away. If an enemy has a way out or is hurting badly, they will usually not fight to the death. Let them run away to fight another day. In a similar fashion, if an enemy is too strong for the maintenance crew, remind the crew that they may run away. So yeah, encounters are not always gonna be balanced. Keep that in mind. Elevator and floors. Yeah, that's how you get around in the hotel, by using the elevator, of course. The elevator is intended to separate each floor in its own individual module. Yes, and that means that every floor of the hotel can be completely different. One floor can just look like a regular hotel floor, while the next floor might look like, I don't know, a jungle. It doesn't necessarily need to make sense. The hotel like bends reality, as it were. It's quite a strange place. So, if you want, you still have a module lying around from a different game that you like to use, you can easily just throw it into Dead Halt. You can just say that, like, oh, now you're going to floor, I don't know, 37, and suddenly it's a D&D adventure module. They're in like a fantasy world, and they're in a dungeon. You have to fight skeletons or what have you. It's totally applicable. Yeah, here it offers more, it offers some advice on how to run adventures. Oh, and here finally, we are talking about magics. Basically, in order to cast magics, roll with dice equal to the crew members' knowledge pips, adding up the resulting numbers as well as any item or origin bonuses, strictly referencing magic and the reference the sum on the following chart. So in this case, you don't need to count knocks and failures. You just need to add all the numbers together. And here it'll like state what you're trying to do, if it works or not. You'll notice here that magic is kept kind of vague. It's just a way for you to be able to seize the narrative, shall we say. You can let's say if you roll a 4 to an 8, you can move a small object, create a small light, and stuff like that. And it'll here we go. You have to roll pretty good, for instance, to do an actual damaging thingy, like throwing a lightning bolt, like it says. You have to roll between 16 and 24. So yeah, you have to actually be pretty good at it before you're able to do any type of damage. And if you are really good, you can just warp existence. I have to admit though, what I don't like here is that it doesn't literally tell you how much damage you do if you, for instance, want to use magic in combat. it doesn't outright tell you how much damage you do. So it's kind of up to the game master or hotel manager to kind of improvise on the fly. This is a common theme for rules light game system, that you're supposed to improvise a lot. But here it's especially you have to improvise a lot, because a lot of things are left open. But more on that later. Moving on, defying death. Here we go. If your wounds are ever equal to your wound threshold, roll a d6 on the back of your ID card. Congratulations, that body part is mangled beyond repair. Don't worry, no staff personnel can die in the hotel, as state-of-the-art 1980s cybernetics will make sure that every crew member is back up to the peak physical condition in no time at all. When faced with the loss of a percentage of their body, maintenance crew can simply call Medcon, and a licensed medical council, or Medcon, will be dispatched to the location. So yeah, like this council will appear, and it'll whisk the player character away to receive medical attention and a new cybernetic attachment. Yes, indeed. And that's like going back to what I said in the beginning. You'll get like some clunky cybernetics. One of your body parts is replaced, and you'll probably get like a new ability related to that cybernetic attachment. Yeah, here it shows like the medical council that drops down, and it asks you if you need to be healed. And here it says, when a crew member reaches their wound threshold, 2 rounds of action go by, as they are modded, so it actually, you do lose time, that you're not completely, immediately able to go out again. But yeah, you only lose 2 rounds, which actually isn't all that lot. It isn't a lot. I mean, it goes by pretty quickly. And on the back of their ID card, roll a d6 and cross off that limb. On the mod table, roll a d6, so you get a limb randomly. Roll a d6 for that limb to determine its function. Fill in the 5th pip on that attribute the mod enhanced. So yeah, you actually get an extra pip, meaning that you become better somehow. But there's a downside. If a crew member fills in all 5 mods on their ID card, they suffer a Dead Halt. That means that your character will become a clunkhead. It means that they will get these strange whispers of Fortra in their head, and they'll run off into the darkness and never to be seen again. Although, at a later point, the other players might encounter the same character as an enemy. Now controlled by the mysterious supercomputer, Fortra, that exists somewhere in the hotel. Where is Fortra, you might wonder? No one is really sure. Moving on, here's some backstory on the hotel, which I'm not gonna get into right now. If you want to know more about the history, you'll just have to get the PDF for yourself. But long story short, it's a really old hotel, in which it dates back to like the late 19th century, and in time more and more floors were added until it became like really super duper tall. And at one point, it was they installed like a supercomputer to be the manager of the hotel, and the supercomputer started doing all sorts of weird experimental things and making very strange devices, which is why reality itself became warped in the hotel. But at one point, they basically lost contact with supercomputer Fortra, and now it's a mystery of where it is, and everything in the hotel is now chaos, which is why the player characters need to be there to fix stuff. And here we go here we go. Tales from the Bar. It'll go into like your different origins. You start out with humans, but when you continue on, you'll unlock other origin or races. You got here your rat folk. You got blank slates, which kind of are like androids, if I'm not mistaken. You've got the Zon 80, which are like consoles, but with a will of their own. And you've got, of course, goblins. And toadlings. And, whoops, go too far. And spawn. Spawn are especially kind of cool. They can, like, summon a sports equipment. Like, if they're ever out of a weapon, if they don't have any weapons, they can always, like, summon a baseball bat or a hockey stick or something to defend themselves with. Yeah, and each of them comes with their special abilities. But if you're going by the rules as stated in the Dead Halt book, you're usually starting out with playing humans, and you actually have to unlock other origins by playing the game, meaning that you might, during a mission, you might encounter a group of toadlings, and if you help them out, that becomes an unlocked origin, and you can maybe play that next time. But yeah, that's going by the rules as written. If you want, if your hotel manager allows it, you can actually start with playing different kinds of races. And here it talks more about the people who live in the hotel, the denizens. You of course got here the ring, the bartender, your typical consoles, which are found on every floor. You got the clunkheads, which are the people who had too many cybernetic modifications happen to them, and they suffered a dead halt. And you got some more NPCs, weird creatures. And then we go on to the section with the items. The gachapon. Yes, at the start, usually at the start, but not always. When you get money, you can spend it on the gachapon and get random items. That's actually one of the things I really like about this game, is that you can't, well, at least not usually, you can't literally just go out to buy items. You just have to spend it on the gachapon and hope that you're gonna get something useful. It's actually a lot of fun. But yeah, here you can see some example items. They of course got the power glove. But one downside of this book is, as you can tell, wait, let me scroll down. Yeah, there you go. As you can tell, there's no stats. It's like no stats. I mean, you've got like a list of items here, but you don't know what they do. If you want to know what they do, you need to, yeah, like it says here, all these items and more can be found on zonware.net. And that's actually where you're gonna find all the stats. And I think that's a little bit of a shame. You can't really run this game out of the book. You need to make certain that you have all the stuff from the site also, which I think is a little bit of a downside, unfortunately. And when I originally bought this book, the charts didn't exist yet. There were no stats on Zonware.net. Well, there were, but only like a few. So I kind of had to improvise and come up with my own items, which was fun, sure, but very time-consuming. So yeah, but luckily now a complete list of items exists. Moving on to the mods. These are like the cybernetic modifications that your character might get when they are wounded. And here we do actually have like a function, so it does actually state what they do. So luckily you don't need to go to the website to download some extra stuff for that. Here we go, expanding the file. When you complete a lot of jobs and get some extra money, you can actually upgrade the bar to get all sorts of nice upgrades. And one of the upgrades is actually getting extra ammo for your weapons, so you don't constantly have to throw them away after they're done and used. So yeah, if you intend to play this for a long campaign, you can upgrade stuff. Here we go into a chart of malfunctions. Because like I said before, every item will have like a malfunction threshold. And when your weapon or whatever item malfunctions, you need to roll on this chart. And let's pick a random one. Here we go. Form switched. Cosmetically looks like a completely different item. So as you can tell, a malfunction doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna explode or do something damaging or whatever. It just often it just becomes weirder. But you cannot, like it says here, they're not intended to be negative or positive. They're just different than before. Yeah, it makes them really weird. Although you can't get an infinite amount of malfunctions. After an item has malfunctioned twice, and if then a third malfunction arises, the item will become bricked and broken for good. But yeah, there's a lot of really funny ones in here. Like suddenly your item becomes cooler. It becomes cool looking. Suddenly your gun is gonna get sunglasses. Who knows? Or it becomes gross. It suddenly becomes organic. Made of living, breathing flesh and bone. You. Oh, and here it also goes into like the glitches that your cybernetic attachments may suffer. And here we just get a sample adventures. I always like it when the game includes some sample adventures, so you can start playing right away and don't have to come up with your own adventures. Here we see some more NPCs. Here's another adventure. And the final words. Yes. Ben Doran, he's Zonware. That's the name I was looking for at the beginning. He is the creator of this game. And lastly, we also have like a rule summary and an ID card and what have you, and a little kitty cat. So yeah, I really like this game, but I'm gonna have to be completely honest with you. It does have its faults. You have to make an awful lot up yourself. For instance, there isn't a clear guide on how to make your own enemies. You're just supposed to improvise, and you probably won't know from the get-go if this enemy is too powerful or too weak. You'll just have to improvise and try it out. But yeah, and there is then of course what I said before about having to download stuff from these sites because otherwise you don't really have a list of items to give to your players, which is also a little bit annoying. But yeah, if you're okay with all of that, if you're like a GM with some experience who doesn't mind making a lot of stuff up, yeah, then this game is totally for you. Though if you're a player, it's actually a pretty good game to start with because it doesn't have a lot of rules. It's not complicated. You can get started in just a few minutes. You don't have to memorize a lot of rules. So yeah, I think as a player, this is a great game to start out with. So yeah, I really like this game. Like I said before, it has its shortcomings, but I just really like the atmosphere of the game. It's like this really weird hotel with weird technology, full of really strange people and creatures. And I do, of course, like the cyberpunk aspect of it, although, yeah, in this case, it's clunkpunk, because all the cybernetics is really clunky. I also really appreciate that. I like it a lot. Yeah, what I mainly like about this game really is I really like the aesthetics. It's really a fun game. If you don't mind the shortcomings that I talk about, then this is a really good game for you, especially if you like rules light games. Yeah, that's all for today. That's all I'm gonna talk about for today. That was Dead Halt. I hope you found this informative. If you do, maybe leave me a like and a comment down below in the down below under the video. You know how it goes, and tell me your thoughts. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, check you guys later.